to this week's episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Grab a seat at the table as Masters rowing coaches Marlene Royal and Rebecca Caro share their biggest secrets on how to unleash your hidden potential and plot a new course for real results on the water and off. Now, on to the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. I'm Rebecca Caro, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Duncan Holland. Welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca, and hello to everybody.
So Duncan and I have known each other for a very long time, and we are both coaches. Duncan has coached all sorts of people at all sorts of levels all around the world. You can look him up. But today we want to talk specifically about debunking a myth which surfaces regretfully over and over again. The myth is this: masters are uncoachable. They do not respond to coaching. Coaching doesn't work with masters, and variations on this theme. When Marlene and I started Faster Masters Rowing, part of our mission has been to change people's attitudes to masters, both from the structural point of view, as in what is preventing people from taking part in this wonderful sport of ours. And then the other side of that is, what are the enabling things that we can do which can make it easier for people to take part and to enjoy it and to be doing it in the way that they want, because not everybody wants to be an elite 1K racer. Part of that discussion is all about coaching. How do we impart the techniques that are needed? How do we create the enjoyment, which is one of the reasons why we keep coming back to the sport? And debunking that myth that I started off with. Duncan, you're a man with opinions and expertise. Kick us off.
I'm not sure having opinions the way you framed it. Anyway, I enjoy coaching masters. As Rebecca said, I've coached all sorts of people, all sorts of levels, and I find coaching masters relatively easy and a lot of fun. And the really, really best thing about them is that they don't have parents. And anybody who's coached juniors knows exactly what I mean. So in my world, I think coaching masters is the same as coaching anybody. I only have one theory and practice of coaching. I think there are more differences between individuals than there are between rowing categories. So if we think, depending on what country you're in, J14 or under 15 or whatever the name of the category is, and competitive adults and masters, I would see more differences between Bill and Joe than between under 15s in general and masters in general. All sorts of differences in attitudes and abilities and physiology and ways of learning. And one example of that is very well known, that people learn in different ways. Some people like words, some people like pictures, videos, and you can't say that masters respond well to videos and juniors respond well to words. It's an individual thing. Bill likes words, Joanne likes pictures. So for me, coaching masters isn't different. Now, organising masters is different, and I think we'll get onto that later in the show. But fundamentally, the coaching, what I call coaching, the helping people to get better at the skill, in this case rowing, is the same for everybody.
Well, that's a great start point. And it certainly should be encouraging, I think, for anyone listening who might be tempted to come and coach masters, and is already experienced in coaching other sorts of athletes, that there's not too much, if I hear you, that isn't the same as what they've already done.
No, I don't think so. And in fact, for a coach from another area of rowing, in a lot of ways, masters are easier because the organising, the crowd control is easier. If you're running two groups of 15-year-olds in eights, 20 15-year-olds is a full-time job needing two dogs and half a dozen parents to help. The coaching on the water's fine, but masters, there's so much less of that, and they even buy you coffee.
And cake if you're fortunate.
Only on your good days, yeah. There's a very nice cafe just up the hill from where Rebecca trains in Auckland.
There is. There are many nice cafes in Auckland. Yeah. So one of the things that I'd love to talk a little bit more about are the sort of similarities side or differences in how you approach coaching overall. Because Duncan, you have would you call it a method of coaching, which we've called today the empowered athlete, and I'm guessing we're heading towards understanding what that is. And one of the inputs is, how do you teach people what you want them to be able to do?
Yeah, I was being pompous. I'd probably say I have a coaching philosophy. Someone did once suggest that I was Socratic, but I'm not sure about that. Yeah, thank you for the giggle. My ideas around coaching are based on the things I need to be a coach. And the fundamental one is enough knowledge of how to row and how to rig boats and how to race, those very technical things. And that's one of the reasons why it's easier for ex-rowers to become rowing coaches than for non-rowers. It's not impossible for non-rowers, but it's easier for ex-rowers because they do know how to row, how to rig, how to race. Said, all the knowledge in the world is on the internet now, so that can be found. So you either know it or you know where to find it. Having got that, the next and probably most important skill is how to give feedback. And at the end of this section, we're going to show a short video of a very good coach demonstrating how to give feedback. But the basic interaction between athlete and coach is feedback. And there are lots of experts available on the net, and whatever country you're in, your National Rowing Association has coaching courses, and there'll be a lot of talk about feedback. But continual feedback is absolutely vital. Then there are some the need to write a program. If the people you're coaching want to get faster, they have to train. Notice I said if they want to. Some people are happy just rowing. That's fine. Lets you out of writing a program. But a performance crew has to have a training program. It's better if the coach can write it, but again, that's something which can be outsourced. I don't know where the Faster Masters. Do you sell rowing programs, giveaway rowing programs, Rebecca?
We certainly do. Yeah,
okay.
For individuals, crews, and clubs, right. And for people who don't race, we call that fitness rowers.
Yep, sure. Whatever your goal is. So yeah, that's another one that can be outsourced. There's an extremely important, often sigh-inducing point: how to be safe on the water. The coach is the focal point of safety, And if you're going to be a coach, you need to be aware of your responsibilities and local regulations, etc., etc. And when I'm coaching young coaches, I say, when you're thinking about safety, think about going and knocking on the door of a parent and saying, we've had an accident. So those four things are for me the basis of how to be a coach. They're all the same for masters and other people. The differences between masters and other people, I think, are around the organising. Dealing with adults is different to dealing with children. Dealing with high performance people is different to dealing with, I was about to say ordinary people, club level, however you want to describe it. And the organisation has to be appropriate. And obviously with juniors, you are concerned about how they travel to and from, and are they safe, and are they going straight home after rowing and not skiving off somewhere to have a little party before they get home, all those sorts of things. Whereas with adults, you can just say, I'll see you at the agreed time. I made an offhand remark about masters as they have no parents. If you're coaching juniors, you're a coach of parents as well, and organising and managing and leading the parents is a big part of it. So that's something which masters don't have. But say fundamentally, I would say on the water coaching is universal. Off the water, it much more dependent on who you've got. Now,
are you ready for that video?
I am, yes. I was about to say, I said a few sentences ago that feedback is an absolutely core skill. Here's someone who is, I think, a better coach than I am, talking about how to give feedback.
Right. So listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cell phone on the floor, and you're going to throw these balls over your shoulder, overhand, and try and hit my cell phone. But I'll let you see where the cell phone is at the start, but then you're not going to be able to see it. And I'm going to give you 5 different levels of feedback. That, well, the first 3 won't help you at all, and then the next 2 will. So, but I need to always warn the coaches. I'm the one giving the feedback. You're not the ones giving the feedback. So if you go, that's feedback that is quite close to the phone. So please don't give them that feedback. So I'll put it down on the floor. Sorry. That's big enough. Yes, yeah. So there it is. So rowing because the ball's So I'll give you about 3 throws at each level. Okay, and I'll just tell you what the level is, and then so the first 3 levels will not help you at all. But it's often so that's the last time. I won't move the phone. It's the last time you look at it. You just keep saying, yeah. Right, okay. So here is the first level of feedback. Okay, off you go, Nick. That's great. Is that feedback? You're going to do 3, I think. Oh, yeah, do 3. Yeah, that's the first level of feedback, so that's no feedback. Here's the next level of feedback. Oh, that's useless, Nick. That's just pathetic. You're not even trying. So that's the second level of feedback. That's negative feedback. That's why kids misbehave, because if they get ignored, told off is a little bit better than getting ignored. Here's the third level of feedback, and this is feedback coaches give an awful lot to athletes. You missed. You missed again. And again. So that level of feedback is when you say good. That's like saying you missed. Good. Or almost good. So coaches get that now. Don't confuse that with encouragement of good. But if you're giving them feedback, then you're just saying good. You're not actually telling them anything useful. Because at the moment, Nick's got no idea where he is in relation to my phone. And now, hopefully, things will improve. So now, Nick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you where the ball lands in relation to the phone. I'll give you whether you're short or too far, and I'll give you whether it's to your right or your left. So I might say you're a metre short and you're 30 centimetres to your right. Okay. All right. So here we go. Here's the first one. You're 2.5 metres short and about 10 centimetres to your right. You're 10 centimetres short and 20 centimetres to your right. Pretty much the same spot, 20 centimetres short, 10 centimetres to your right.
That was really helpful, though.
Yeah, well done. I know. We're going to hear from you in a minute. Okay, so here's the final level of feedback. I'm going to give you the same information, but before I do, I want you to tell me where you think the ball's landed. So you're going to say the same thing, that it's this far short or this far to your right or left, and I'll tell you exactly where it landed.
Real nervous. Okay,
what do you reckon?
I reckon I hit it.
What do you really reckon?
A little bit short again.
You're a metre short.
Yeah.
And the direction.
A little bit that way.
No, you're 20 centimetres to the right. That one?
A little bit too far.
How far?
Right, just past it, maybe 20 centimetres.
Yeah, pretty much on there. What about the direction?
A little bit to the left.
No, you're still 20 centimetres to the right.
Oh,
That one?
a little bit short, but straighter.
Yep, direction was straight. How far short were you?
About a metre.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, one more go. As you managed to hit it. What about that one?
About the right length.
About 30 centimetres too long.
In that way.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll let you have a discussion about this, but just before we do, so I always like to hear from the person on the receiving end, like, how was that for you? Like,
well, that last one was great for me, thank you, Brad. But it's just good to know where you're at.
Yeah. So the first three levels,
Yeah, obviously.
you had nothing, no information to help you.
Yeah.
The first three levels.
And the second level, yeah. What was the second to last level?
That was me telling you where you were, and then you told me not to think.
Yeah, when I had to think about where I'd thrown it, that was like my level to think about it.
Yeah.
And I was taking more responsibility because of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so there are those 5 levels. So obviously the first 3 absolutely useless to me. Just remember that one when you just say good. This won't change overnight. It took me 2 years to stop saying good when I was coaching. The first real move you make is when you say it and you realise you've said it. But if the athlete can own it, then you're really starting to get powerful feedback in the daily training environment. So have a chat to your neighbour about that.
I was going to say,
Wow, that is powerful.
Isn't it just? And quick aside, he knows absolutely nothing about rowing. He was a world-class badminton player.
Right. But coaches. So he understands coaching and the impartation of knowledge to
Absolutely.
an audience.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, and as he says, it's not an easy way to coach, but it can be done, and changing the way you coach is interesting. and it ties in with the empowered athlete concept, which is what we're on to next, I believe, Rebecca.
Absolutely. So you
Right.
call this the empowered athlete, and for me that implies more of a relationship, maybe even a contract between the teacher and the learner, rather than a you know, I say jump, and you know, and you say how high I've got to jump.
Yeah, on the way up, I say how high. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think there's an awful lot of bad coaching out there, and I also think we grew up with a very wrong idea of the coach being the boss. Now, everybody says, "Oh, we're athlete-centered," and what's the mantra? Athlete-centered, coach-driven, administrator-empowered, and people parrot that and carry on being the boss. And the concept of the empowered athlete really, truly puts the athlete in charge of their own destiny. And the athlete is the center, and the coach is one of the tools the athlete has available to help them reach their goal. It took me a long time to get over myself and get over my ego. And yes, Rebecca can say this when I'm not here. I'm particularly competitive. Scrabble in Americans. Do Americans play Scrabble?
Someone watching tell us if they do.
Yeah. Scrabble in our house is a full body contact sport. I am extremely competitive. And when I'm coaching, I love watching the crew win. But I've learned that it's not me winning, it's the athletes I've helped winning. And to get to that is not easy, but it actually it made me a better coach, a more effective coach. So I tend to think that I should be like Wikipedia, a resource, a depository of knowledge, hopefully mostly accurate. I'm not the bus driver in control, taking everybody where I want to go. I'm more like the navigator if I'm coaching Rebecca and she says the boat is dropping a little to stroke side coming into the catch. Can you make any suggestions about what we might be able to do to fix it? And no, it's not me saying the boat's dropping to bow side or stroke side or port or starboard. It's the athlete saying, this is happening. What do you think? So if Rebecca, thank you. We've got the
confirmation. Americans play Scrabble.
Okay, good.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Rich.
Excellent. So this is a slide from a presentation I give, and the goal of the session is to empower masters athletes, to empower you. Now, some of this is masters specific, but the concepts are equally valid with anybody. So coaches are rare. Many athletes have got knowledge gaps. Key point, athletes can and should take more responsibility for their technique. You're responsible, not me. Help is available if you look, and we talk about how to help each other, which most masters crews have a mix of abilities in them and very little coaching. So who's available? It's the person sitting in front or behind of you. So those are my starting points. And let's move on to the next slide, if we could, please, Rebecca. Now it'll have to jump. It's number 9, I think. There we go. Right. So I use the word model to describe the rowing technique that I think is correct. And I've got lots of slides and pictures and we're describing that. And I think it's the best around, but there are a lot of other ones. Every rowing association, I think, in the world, and almost every textbook has a how to row. So Canadian rowing, US rowing, British rowing, German rowing, New Zealand rowing, more or less. We'll give you pictures and words and videos saying this is how you should row, or you can find a fantastic crew. The New Zealand men's 8 at the last Olympics, the British women's pair a couple of Olympics ago, Stanning and Glover. Was that 2 Olympics ago, Rebecca? I think.
Yep. Yeah, that was London 2012.
They rowed absolutely.
And Rio, sorry, and Rio. They were the same crew. Yeah.
Yeah, rowed absolutely beautiful. So that's what I call a model. That's a good way to row. And for rowing geeks like me, discussing which model is best is a lot of fun. A rowing crew, a rowing group must have a model. Must. There has to be an agreement about how we're going to row. And when I visit a rowing club, one of the things I find myself saying a lot is, why haven't you got your model on the wall in the training room everywhere? So this is how this rowing club wants to row. And then the first step for the empowered athlete is to compare themselves to the model. To do that, video is the best tool. So every one of you owns a phone, a smartphone with a very good video camera in it. So somebody can video you. You can even video yourself on the erg. Get a video of yourself rowing and compare how you row to how the model is. And classic one we talk about is from the catch. You push your legs and then open the body. Push and open. Look, there's the model. There's Glover pushing and opening. Here am I rowing. Oh, I do that differently. I open then push. Find a difference. Decide what you want to change. Now comes a slightly more difficult bit. Figure out how to change. Now, this here you might need help, but I say the internet is full of help. Faster Masters, there's people all over the internet who can help you with suggestions and exercises or training methods, or you can approach somebody in your club who is more knowledgeable, or for that one, maybe a physiotherapist or a trainer would be useful. But say, find help, have a go, and then look for feedback. Take more video, and this is a key part, I think, for masters, is to ask a crewmate. Rebecca turns around and says to Tonya, "Hey, Tonya, I've been trying to not lean out as much. Have I made a change?" And so if you think about what I described there, it wasn't Tonya saying to her rowing partner, "Rebecca, you're rowing like shit," or "You're rowing better," or anything else. It was Rebecca saying to Tonya, "I think I've made a change. Have I?" So the empowered Rebecca is in control, and she's asking for feedback from a peer about a process of which she is in charge. Now, if you're listening to this on tape, go back and listen to that. That was quite important. The athlete's in charge, and she's decided what changes she wants to make, and she seeks feedback from somebody, as to whether she's made the change. If there's a coach involved and there'd been a discussion saying, Rebecca, you are leaning out a bit, I think you should be more in the middle of the boat, then the next step from the coach is, Rebecca, what do you think is happening? Have you changed? Is it better? Okay. And that for me is the key to the athlete having ownership and wanting to change. We must be getting fairly close to the end of our time, are we, Rebecca?
Yeah, I'm dying to get out in a boat, Duncan. I'm feeling that I need to immediately go and put this into practice in the cruise that I'm rowing in.
Good. I may be in Auckland in a month. I can come and watch you, and then you can buy me a coffee.
It would be my pleasure, Duncan. And I will say that when it comes to the videoing, recently we have found two useful observations. One is, yes, athletes can watch the video, but sometimes they don't see the same things that the coach sees. And we had a situation this morning where one of my crewmates said, it was really good to get the videos, but what was really good was the version where the coach then kind of like re-recorded the video, pausing at certain points and saying, specifically here, I can see this, and, and then nudging it forwards, in slow motion, and say, and at this point, I can see this, and explaining what that means in the context of what you've described as the model. And so it isn't just videoing and sending the video to the athlete, because if they don't know what they're looking for, they're still pretty much in the dark, like your feedback level 3.
Absolutely. Now, if there's no coach around, you can compare yourself to the model, but the coach can do the same thing. And obviously, I'm more at comparing Rebecca's rowing to my model of rowing than the average bear, because I've been doing it for a very long time. And part of my idea of empowering the athletes is to share the scarce coaching resource further. And if I go out with the same master's crew time, the 3 or 4 times a week which I'm available for coaching is limited to those 4 or 8 people. If I go out twice a week with a different 8, and then leave them, help them, encourage them, empower them, then I've immediately doubled or quadrupled the reach of my coaching, which for the club is fantastic.
We had this exact conversation with a club this week. One of the things that happens with Faster Masters customers who buy rowing training programs from us is that we consult. And the club came to us and said, we're having terrible difficulty hiring a coach for our summer season. People either don't want to come to our town, or they move on after a year, and we can't work out, what are the what's the silver bullet, although we don't think there is one. And we ended up having a very robust discussion, one of which was exactly what you said, is use coaching resource, use it part-time with this one crew of 8 people, and then empower them to go and continue to coach themselves for the times when you're not there.
And if you can't get someone to come to your town because you live somewhere remote like New Zealand, the internet is actually quite a powerful tool. I've actually coached people remotely. So I sat in my office where I'm sitting now. Thanks, Rich. I've had a coach in a boat with a crew and me there on video, mentoring the coach and making suggestions to the crew. And it made very good sense. There was a team and I mentored 4 coaches and it took an hour or two per session. If I'd flown there, it was 1,000 kilometers away. Time, money, effort, and say the internet is surprisingly powerful.
Yeah, or live streaming video, and more to the point, you were coaching coaches, and that's a massive multiplier effect in terms of your impact, because that sounds like 4 people who then went out to do their thing in a really good way, which they could do because you'd empowered the coach as well as the athletes.
Exactly. Well, if we set that up for you in North Shore, which is 1,000 kilometers from here, and you're coaching an 8, hopefully in a session, I could empower 10 people, and athletes and coach, or whoever the leader is, and then maybe 2 hours once a fortnight. Now, you can't afford to pay a coach. There aren't many coaches. The keen young coaches are mostly coaching high schools because that's where the money is and the dream of going and coaching in the States at a college. But you might be able to find someone who's got an hour a fortnight, who's prepared to sit by their mobile phone for that time.
Exactly. Duncan, this has been absolutely delicious. I loved the video. I will be encouraging a few people to watch that. Please tell the listeners where they can get hold of you if they'd like to be in touch.
Duncan.rowingcoach@gmail.com, 0064 21 863 942, or my home address is here. Is that working?
Yeah, looks beautiful.
Yep. Central Otago in the middle of New Zealand's South Island. Snow on the hills, sunshine. 139 Lord of Flat Road if you're coming for coffee.
I take it there is a cafe down the road.
No, I make good coffee.
Oh, you make good coffee. Well, there you go. That's a different sort of coaching. Duncan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise. And to all of our listeners, please stay in touch, tell your friends, and we very much look forward to seeing you next week on Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Till next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
We are part of the Rowing Chat Podcast Network. Please tell your rowing friends about the show. And if you've learned just one helpful thing from today's episode, please consider supporting the show for as little as $1 per month by visiting fastermastersrowing.com/podcast.
How do I answer Rich?